Hi there, my name is Kay Moon and I'm a twin flame channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the full moon in Pisces taking place on September 10th, 2022 at 5:55 a.m. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, please check a time zone converter for your local time. This full moon marks a segue into a period of major transition as we move into the peak of the union window energies for 2022 and 2023. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We have coming up in January, what I have been talking about on this channel is a union window or union peak where you see Juno, the divine feminine, and Jupiter, the divine masculine, meeting up in the sky, and the sign of Aries, the sign of the self, marking this period for 1 year on either side as a union with self window that is amplifying divine connections between now and then. And so, what I am seeing as we move into this period of time from now to then, and then a little bit after that, is a period of major transition, major self reflection in divine counterpartships. As we complete 2022, like I said, this energy could be felt a year on either side. Recently did a few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, a union window update for divine counterparts. If you haven't listened to that and you're new to the channel, please have a listen. It's like a 2-hour special that will bring you up to speed on all things astrological for this year leading into next. With this Pisces full moon taking place here at the 17th degree there of Pisces opposite the sun, this full moon, and I talk about it in the Lightworker energy update, brings forward kind of the beginning of, like I said, this period of transition. It's the hallmark of this full moon is, okay, there's an ending here, there's a completion here, there's something I'm done with here. I know what that is. What's not clear is, how do we transition from here? In the third dimension, how do we in the third dimension create whatever the next step is? And so, with that uncertainty, with that unclarity about what the next step is, there is going to be a bit of back and forth, a bit of moving, moving to the left, only to zigzag to the right, only to move back to the left again, and then find some way to center as we close out the cycle in December. I went through the astrology of why this is going to take through December to work this way and what there is to know about it in the Lightworker energy update, what there is to explore in it for you as a person within that Lightworker energy update. So I strongly recommend you have a listen to that so that you can understand the full picture of what's going on in yourself, so that you can understand the full picture of what's going on in the connection. Because neither the divine counterparts is like heavily talking to the other at this time. And so, as I've mentioned in previous lunar updates, this is a period of time where both are turning inward. They are both retrograde, neither in forward motion, but in inward motion, for reflection and the opportunity for growth before they meet up in the sky and then begin moving forward together in January. So, the hallmark of this period of time is inner work, self work, even for those who are in some format of union at this juncture. This inner work, this self work, even you may be connecting with one another, but there's this recognition of, wow, okay, these are the things I need to work on, or that life is pulling my attention toward at this time. And to help facilitate some of that, right as we've entered this full moon in Pisces, just as we're entering it, I have made Q&A with Kay 2022 Union with Self now available on a little sale, little savings between now and Monday preceding this particular full moon. So if you'd like to grab it, I've made it available for a special price because it is the recording only and the content parts only. Normally Q&A with Kay, all 4 sessions are $144, but I'm adding on a bonus and I'm adding a discount to it. I will throw in the divine mirrors content because mirroring is something that is strongly occurring at this time. And I'm going to get to that if you listen all the way to the end of this video. I'm going to throw in the divine mirror content from 2021 and not only make it available for a lower price, but basically the same price as a 30-minute session for you. So you can go much deeper into understanding what's happening for you in between now and the end of the year by having a listen to this content. You can see all of the session topics. If you click the link just below this video, it'll take you to this page, which will help you understand the end of the purification process. There's a video in here about the purification process if you don't know what that is. But it's that period of time when your twin is not available to you and you simultaneously cannot force your body to be open to another person. So many of you are coming into completion of that process as we move into the peak of this union window in January, and we'll be opening to love again in a new way with counterpart with another. We're also in this particular Q&A with Kay have some reframes that my spiritual guides have provided to me about the distinctions between separation and union and the paradoxical energy of both and how to work with the triggers in both. 108 minutes of content, 50 minutes of content here, so that you can really understand how to let love flow in the way that it is attempting to flow in your life. Union energy, love energy is anchoring at this time for all divine counterparts in some format. How it's going to anchor for you is going to be a direct function of both some of your astrology and how open you are to letting love flow in the way it's ready to flow in your life. I've been speaking about this throughout the lunar updates leading up to this point, talking about it in private sessions with clients. How is this union energy playing out for you? But I'm giving you basically this content so you can understand how to work with the triggers and how to understand what you're being asked to work on at this time. So if you're struggling with how pushy, pulley this union window energy is, because it's pulling us toward the connection, pushing us toward the connection, and simultaneously demanding we heal everything standing between us and love in order to get to love flowing into our lives. Getting into Q&A with Kay is going to help you understand where the work is so that you're no longer feeling yanked around by the energy. And I included 2021, the divine mirrors energy intentionally, because at this time, understanding the direct mirror, the opposite mirror, the mirror of the void, and the mirror of separation will help you better relax with what the lessons are and actually work on them without self-blame, blaming the other person, or thinking somehow one or both of you is doing union wrong and you've missed your chance, because that wouldn't be true. In the Divine Mirrors 2 section, we talk about the parental mirror, the mirror of light and shadow, and the mirror of divine perfection. And each one of these comes with coaching questions for self-reflection so that you're able to break apart what your life is showing you and get into running with union energy instead of being stuck, feeling like I can't escape the heaviness of being drawn toward the connection and not knowing what to do, either in my counterpart's absence, or if you're in union, my counterparts work on some other area of life that doesn't necessarily involve me. Okay. Inside of Q&A with Kay, between both programs, there are 3 different meditations, one in reframing separation, a spiritual union meditation, and a sexual union practice for you to be able to utilize as you move through this energy so that you can understand how to work with the spiritual components, not just the emotional and mental components of this union window. And all of this is to really help facilitate more ease, more allowingness, less struggle, because this energy can be really intense and we're not catching a break. You're going to see as we talk about this in this lunar update. There's over 9 different sessions of content. Normally it's 144 just for one Q&A with Kay, but I'm doing it at 111 USD for this, for both Q&A with K's, because I think so many people really need it right now. So if you missed your opportunity, either because you're in a different time zone and the time I offered it didn't work, you didn't know it even existed at that point in time, or you missed it because you were just so triggered you can't even think about twin flame content. Whether you're in union or in separation doesn't matter. This particular content from these two Q&As with Kay are going to help you understand how to work with this energy for yourself and become more masterful as a divine counterpart with the way the connection is facilitating your growth spiritually here on planet Earth. So link to grab this is below this video, but it is only available for 24 more hours. And so I really hope you grab this and take advantage of this while you can, because after that, it goes back into the vault. The next thing I'm offering is Star School, and that's an astrological program. And I want you to have this in your back pocket for when we get to the eclipses in November and the peak of the Mars retrograde in November, because that season of time, November, December, is just going to be really intense for a lot of people, just as we get into the peak month of the union window energy in January. So my strong encouragement is, if you can get it now, do it now, because you're going to find that the tools and the meditation techniques provide you with frameworks to not feel so powerless around how this energy is transforming you, and to work with the transformative nature of this energy in real time. All right. Link below this video. Now, what I wanted to make sure I said about what the divine counterparts are doing at the full moon in Pisces. Let's have a look at Juno here. Again, you definitely want to listen to the Lightworker energy update so that you can understand this information in context. She's talking in a square to Mars at a 90-degree angle. She's also speaking to this full moon. And this, because Mars is really about to get to its final degrees before turning backwards, apparent retrograde motion in the sky here. This energetically and vibrationally really represents a completion of some sorts. Full moons represent endings in the divine feminine energy fields. Some sort of completion in the direction we've been moving in vibrationally and thought pattern wise when it comes to the way we're showing up in connection. Some sort of level of clarity. Okay, I am done doing X. Whether it's a behavioral pattern, a communication pattern, a thought pattern with counterpart, with self, however I've been showing up, whatever I've been allowing to be a part of the connection that's no longer working. And my connection with self, my connection with counterpart, my connection with source, my connection with mission, my connection with soul group. There's union in all of those areas. There's something that we are coming to clarity about that we can no longer afford to continue doing. And this full moon in Pisces is putting like a highlighter, bold, italics, underline on whatever this thing is for us. There's a bit of like divine wake up call energy here for us all. And so with that comes the impetus to move forward, the impetus to change. And unfortunately, even though the impetus may be here because Mars, our motivation maker, our outward projected movement maker, is about to move in reverse, there's a little bit of think, rethink, and then rethink the rethink going on here in the divine feminine energy fields. And that's, to be honest with you, not exactly a bad thing. This is actually going to work out really well for the divine feminine energies. to do a bit more thinking and a little less emoting. It's been an emoting heavy year. There can be a real propensity with some of this energy, and I've seen it in some of my comments, for people to want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, to feel so hurt or wounded, or so triggered by the connection itself, to just throw the whole thing away and stomp off in a whole other direction. In spite of the way the energy of the connection is like, slow down, back up, have another look, go inside, see what's there, what's being revealed to you. A couple weeks ago, I released a very important video about removing blocks to union in a larger series around forgiveness. Because this year is so forgiveness heavy, it's something my guides told me before we started the year, that it's going to be necessary to forgive this year a lot. And I'm really starting to understand why, because the new energy can't come in until we have stopped holding over ourselves, holding over our counterparts, holding over the connection, the old energy. If we're looking for the past to be rectified in the future, all we're doing is setting ourselves up to be repeating the past. We're going to need to forgive the past in order to start fresh in a new energy and start from a clean slate. And so, as the divine feminine energy is speaking to the South Node as well, she's in a trine to the South Node. And because she's retrograding back and forth in a connection to the South Node called a trine, there's an entry point and an exit point for the nodes when one of the planetary energies is speaking to them in this way, the conjunction or the trine. And right now, what we have is a release point. South Node talks about releasing. It's an exit point of things stored in toxicity in the divine feminine energies. There's a need to let go of things that from the past no longer serve, are now complete, and do not need to be dragged into the future we're creating. Because once she finishes here in the 12th sign of the zodiac, Pisces, and pops out into the first sign, Aries, in January, it's a wrap. It's a new cycle. But in order to not repeat a cycle, and I talked about this in the video specifically related to karma, and forgiveness, in order to not repeat a cycle, it's incumbent upon us to cancel any debt that has been created via our harboring of hurt, our harboring of pain. And so, this period of time where the divine feminine is really kind of held fast in Pisces, the emotional sign connected to our spiritual patterns. And she's speaking to the South Node, the emotional sign tethered to our fears, our wounds, our shame, the things we'd rather people not see about us. She's speaking to the South Node, which is a release point. This is basically, if I could say, it's like a psycho spiritual detox period of time for the divine feminine energies. And so many, I talk to people a lot. This in part why my guides were like, just take a break from doing twin readings for now. There's too much hyper focus on what the counterpart is doing. Is the counterpart coming? Is the counterpart going? Is the counterpart showing up? The reality is, neither one of these counterparts is speaking heavily to the other until January. Between now and then, they are on very different vibrational journeys. And with Juno speaking to the South Node in the way that she is, she's going to have a heavy conversation with Mars that I'm going to talk about momentarily. And specifically, this full moon in Pisces, this is really indicating an important time of forgiveness, release, letting go, coming to understand how our emotional, well worn pathways in the brain came to be, reckoning with the past and then leaving it there, taking the lessons and moving on, and getting to a place of spiritual sovereignty where the past is no longer vibrationally allowing itself to create repeats and ripples into our future. And so, Huge, huge important time to get into understanding how we've manifested the current set of circumstances we're experiencing in our connections. What is being mirrored back to us in our connections about our current state of mental, emotional, spiritual health and well being? There is nothing in the world of creation that we're experiencing, and this is especially true in divine counterpartships, that is not a mirror of us somehow, some way. And as I just talked about with the Q&A with Kay content from 2021, there are 7 different types of mirrors. If you're thinking it's going to be a one-for-one direct reflection, that's very limited, and it kneecaps your understanding of how deep this goes in terms of the potential for your spiritual growth. So, especially if you've been holding some level of like resentment or pain or hurt or harboring of the past that's been stopping you from being able to dig into a fresh new beginning in whatever way love wants to land for you in the new cycle, it's going to be really critical to get your hands on content like that or support in some way that helps you release the past, this period of time. Divine Feminine speaking to South Node in this way. Let it go, and not just mentally. You got to let it go emotionally too, because if it's held in the emotional vibration, we have set ourselves up for a repeat with it. And it is so critical if we want new to let go of the old vibrationally. So, whatever you need to do, some kind of therapy. I've made Q&A available at a super low price. If you need to do some kind of emotional release processing, EFT to bring the emotions up and out. If you need to do somatic processing or therapy, do whatever you need to do. Take this time to clean vibrational house and shift your vibrational anchor point. Bring the floor, meaning how low emotionally and vibrationally you can go. Raise that, get that up higher, so that as we move into the new cycle, there's no possibility of repeating the old with someone new or with your counterpart, with a new job based on the way the old job went. Let go, forgive them, forgive yourself, forgive God, forgive life for it happening the way it happened so that you can move forward. All right. So, lots of different ways to jump off into content with me here, lots of different recommendations for you to find the support you need in the way that you need it. Go where you are called, get what you need to get, but definitely find a way to let go. Okay. Now, to get into some more mundane astrology around this for the divine feminine energy, she is in fact speaking to Mars. Mars is the masculine soulmate energy in the zodiac. Venus is the feminine soulmate energy. If you want to go that far and put people in boxes based on genders, however, gender is something that it's not what we all think it is. We all have both energies. So here's the deal. I spoke about this at the Virgo new moon update. That there is a secondary masculine energy showing up in the divine feminine energy fields. And as I'm saying this, I'm sure many of you are scratching your head and having the aha and light bulb that the person and the connection you thought was divine feminine energy is actually divine masculine energy, or some level of reversal may be happening in your connection right now if you and your counterpart are studying polarity. Sometimes in divine counterpartships, one can be experiencing polaric energy of divine feminine mostly. The other can be experiencing polaric energy of divine masculine energy mostly. We're all both energies, but there could be a certain lesson the two of you are learning by experiencing polarity. Okay. So, if one of you is experiencing divine feminine energy mostly at this time, there could be a pull toward a masculine energy. Again, body is not necessarily what we're talking about here in terms of gender. We're just talking about the energies. There could be the entry of a masculine energy that's pulling on the divine feminine energy fields for interaction, and that could be creating some tension inside of the connection between the divine counterparts. Okay. Another way that this can play out is that as Mars is getting ready to move retrograde, and that's the ruler of the South Node. Mars is one of the co rulers there of Scorpio. Um, there can be a real need to feel it all, review it all in order to heal it all, especially with Nessus sitting right on top of the divine feminine energy there. Nessus is an energy of kind of obsession and rumination and kind of going over and over and over something. There can be a lot of self doubt, questioning, and uncertainty in the divine feminine energy fields right now. And this can really lead to some very ambiguous behavior from ourselves or from other people, or behaviors that other people may perceive as contradictory or ambiguous, saying X and then doing Y, or doing X and then saying Y. The uncertainty and ambiguity is coming from the positioning of Mars and Juno here and what we call mutable signs. Mutable signs are transitional signs. If we look at the mutable signs of the year and what goes on in those seasons, for example, Pisces in the northern hemisphere denotes the distinction or the turn between winter and spring. And so some months we get spring like energy, then we get winter like weather, and then we get spring like weather again, and then it'll be wintry, only to land fully in spring when we get to Aries season, new beginning season. And so because both energies are in these turning point, Mars and Juno in these turning point signs, there can be a lot of back and forth, especially because Juno is retrograde, Mars is about to go retrograde. There can be a bit of uncertainty about so many things. And so it's going to be important for you to have a look at the houses that Gemini and Pisces cover in your astrology chart to get the full scoop. You can always book a reading with me if you want me to look at this for you and help you understand how to work with this in your particular chart. Because the reality is, even though this may not be directly about the connection, whatever we're back and forth on at this time, because Juno is a divine counterpart, will ultimately end up impacting our connections, especially for those in a union energy in the third dimension, as opposed to those who've not spoken to their person in years and years. This can be we're having behaviors in work, family, or money that go back and forth, may make it really difficult for another person to be fully connected or supportive in the ways that you may need at this time until you're clearer about where you're at, what you need, and which direction you're moving. And that clarity seems to be an evolving process that lands more directly and fully in December. Like I said, and I get into the timeline around this and the Lightworker energy update for the Pisces full moon and why things are ambiguous until then and how to work with it. But this is just kind of what to expect in divine connections, kind of generally speaking, if you're in a union energy in the third dimension right now. Okay. The clarity does look to come in, like I said, by the end of the Mars retrograde in Gemini and the Mercury retrograde in Capricorn in January. So there's another Mercury retrograde coming this year, December, January. The question is really going to be, how well did we do getting open with ourselves, getting clear about what we need and how we need it? And then how well did we do being vulnerable and sharing this information with others in co-creation? This energy is really calling for more vulnerability about what we don't know, about our growth edge, about where we still have question marks, and to not withhold that information, but instead to reveal that. Here's where I'm hesitant about this. This energy is an invitation for us to be more willing to be connected than disconnected, even in our uncertainty about what's unfolding, even in our questioning. And the better we're able to do this, instead of projecting, checking out, blaming, the more we're able to manifest actual union energy. And for some, this opening up is, I mean, for all of us, it's really scary to present that sometimes we don't have an answer. We don't know. I don't know how I feel about this or what I want when it comes to that. I'm going to need to have some experiences to know for sure. And to be connected with somebody who's uncertain can be really, it can be terrifying. You can feel a lot like in the world of, I just need to protect myself. Like, well, why don't you go over there and figure it out and come back to me when you know? Or let me just make a snap decision. Let me just say something so I can get out of the pressure of the circumstance, instead of just taking a deep breath, being still, and getting into the truth is, I don't know. And I'm going to stay connected with you until I know. That's a little bit more scary for a lot of us. Because what if the other person runs or shuts down or pushes me away? But the reality is, there's no union without opening up, even in the confusing parts. And there's definitely no union while holding on to the past. So, this letting go energy that the South Node is asking us to do will, in fact, help create some clarity. Because some of why there's not clarity about the future is because there's been too much holding on to certain pain or obligations of the past. There's too much utilizing the past as some sort of measuring stick or correlate to what our possibilities can be in the future. And that would be false, because we're not who we were in the past, right? We're different people than who we were. And so are others around us. And so giving people the chance to be new, and giving ourselves the chance to be new and different, and to explore new territory while being connected, is really kind of it's the energy of this peak union window timing period for those of you who are experiencing coming together in the third dimension of some sort. Okay. A little bit of, that Disney movie Bambi. It's a little bit of like the wobbly fawn legs. Yeah, you're going to tip over sometimes. But the more you use the legs, the stronger they get. The more you practice the vulnerability, the more willing you are to share, the easier it becomes. Okay. Once you build the pathway for it. Okay. Like I said, there's a bit of rumination with this, with Nessus sitting on top of the divine feminine. Just make sure you share your ruminating thoughts. Don't keep them all to yourself. And anything shared with you at this time, don't take it too personally. It's not an instruction manual, it's just people sharing where they're at. Try not to hold people to it, because this is what they're feeling today as we get into the eclipses in November, as Mars retrograde comes to completion in January. What we're feeling today is not going to be what we're feeling later. Just stay connected, stay open, stay present. Try not to put too much on what's unfolding now, and just allow people to be in their process, and allow yourself to be in your process as well. Okay. And then whatever you can do in the realm of spiritual work, past life regression, emotional therapy, spirit release therapy, somatic processing, anything that, like I said, connects us to the psycho-spiritual release that we need, or allows us to connect to our emotions and reveal the underlying thoughts and beliefs that produced that emotional state, is what's indicated here. essentially this turning toward our emotions and their messages, instead of doing kind of a mental or spiritual bypass and checking out of some sort, is what is going to really encourage or negate union energy. The real question here is how much of ourselves can we embrace at this time? How much of the mirror can we stand to look in at this time? Because there's definitely some big mirror energy going on here, big mirror energy. Um, as we look at where our lives are at and how we got here based on what's been happening in our brain and in our emotional states. Especially because she's enshrined so directly here with Lilith in Cancer. Our emotional reality is really demanding our undivided attention. And for some, this is going to be too easy to self abandon, like I said, by blaming someone else or just checking out or blaming our past. But this will come back to bite us in November and December when the eclipses show up, and when Scorpio and Pisces in November are very heavily occupied with planetary energy. Our emotions will begin to really demand our attention even more loudly than they are now as our outer world shifts with the eclipse season and starts to really bring emotions that haven't been dealt with up to the surface. So, best to get the support structures in place now, and some containers in place now so that we can get into the self reflection work now and be prepared for the way this is going to transform us now. Okay. This is why I'm offering Q&A with Kay at such a special price at this point, because the mirror, especially the divine mirrors work for you guys, it's really going to help you understand some of why things are happening the way they're happening in connection at this juncture. All right. So now, link for that is below this video. But if you want to look at stuff privately with me, of course you can in the world of private reading, and the link for that is below the video as well. Let's take a look at Jupiter, the divine masculine energy hanging out here in Aries, out in front in the sign of new beginnings, the first sign of the zodiac. There's some trailblazing here going on in the divine masculine energy fields. Mercury retrograde is opposite this Jupiter retrograde. That's presenting some interesting energy. We've got this Jupiter retrograde speaking to Mars in Gemini via a sextile that Mars is about to be retrograde. Mars wants to charge ahead, and then as it goes retrograde, there's this no, wait, pull back energy here in our divine masculine energy fields. Like everything was going fine until September hit. And now there's this second guessing, there's delays, there's annoyances from the past tripping up our roll forward. There's some vibrational speed bumps in here asking us to slow down, review your plans, review your thought processes, review your thinking patterns, and make sure what we say we want is what we actually want. Make sure that the way we're going about getting it will actually get us to that result. There's a bit of needing to look in the mirror of the way we're working at this time and ask ourselves, is the way we're behaving and what we're thinking actually going to get us to where we want to go, or to some alternate destination that we hadn't intended? Okay. The sextile to Chariklo here inside of Aquarius, as well, air sign Aquarius. So there's a sextile from Mars to Jupiter and a sextile from Chariklo to Jupiter. That sextile from Chariklo is letting us know that getting there, wherever our there is going to be possible. But the plan is probably going to require some adjustments, especially because we've got a square coming in from Pholus to the divine masculine energy, perhaps even fullest indicating a sacrifice in order to have it all. We just probably won't be able to have everything all at once. We may need to move more methodically or accept that some things are out of our control and will need to be relinquished in order for us to have what we want. Maybe we thought we could get away with having this and this and this, and it'll all go fine if we just move it along in this way. And life is saying, nope, you're going to have to make some more difficult choices, or I will make them for you. With fullest square, the divine masculine energy, and Mars stationing retrograde in this particular season. Okay. There's also another way that this could play out is with Jupiter not speaking to any feminine energy, neither the feminine soulmate nor the divine feminine, not speaking to either one of those directly at this juncture. There's only Jupiter speaking to Mars, the masculine soulmate here. Couple of things going on. There could be some divine masculine energies that are moving into a period of time of really examining sexual preference, sexuality. Am I more attracted maybe to masculine energy as well? That's the way some of this can play out. And this is probably a mirror for those of you in the world of divine feminine energy who are also yourself somewhere on the sexuality spectrum that isn't in one of the polarities as hetero or homosexual, maybe somewhere in the middle on the spectrum. Divine masculine energy, maybe examining where in the middle of that spectrum as your counterpart they may be as well. Completely understandable in an energy like this. There's no right or wrong to it. It's just who you are as a person. Your configuration is your configuration for your lessons in leadership on the planet. There could also be, as an additional way of this energy playing out, Mars and Jupiter speaking in harmony to one another. An additional way this energy could play out is a merge of human masculine and divine masculine energy here. Like I said, Mars represents the human, the soulmate. Jupiter represents the God, the divine. And there's a merge in this sextiling energy between the two of them that has started the last several lunations and will continue to go on in conversation as Mars turns retrograde and directly sextiles Jupiter again. There's a merge of provide and protect with procreate and co-create. There is a convergence of masculine ambition and drive with masculine manifestation via our efforts to be more grounded in our masculine energy at this time. And this is big mirror energy in our divine masculine energy fields about where we may have self-sabotaged as Mercury goes retrograde, and this retrograde is speaking there to the shaman's asteroid. Big mirror energy coming to consciousness as Mercury speaks to divine masculine energy. Oh, this is how I wound up here. This is how my third dimensional reality came to be what it is. I said this based on this thinking, and therefore my reality manifested and played out in this way. I get it now. A plus B equals C. Got it. I want a different C. Okay, so I'm going to have to change my A and B in order to get a different C. I have to change my inputs to get a different output. I have to think some different things. I'm going to have to say some different things. I'm going to have to behave in some different ways if I want a different output. Got it. So there's a lot of light bulbs going off in our divine masculine energy fields right now about how our reality is mirroring back, our outer world is mirroring back our inner world, how our thoughts have created our circumstances. And so some adjustments are in the process of getting made as we move and rock with this energy over the next 4 months. There's some real like, oh, I didn't intend for this to be the case. So since this wasn't my intention, yet this is my outcome, I'm going to have to change my inputs here. And it's a beautiful gift, but there's going to need to be some exploration, perhaps some experimentation in our divine masculine energy fields for a different outcome to come to bear. And so, as you're seeing people, as I mentioned earlier, kind of zig and zag, go back and forth on certain things, please have some compassion with this for others and for yourself. Try to stay patient in this energy as people work up to clarity, because clarity is not going to come overnight for some of us. For some of us, like I said, this is going to be an experiential process. I talked about this in the Lightworker energy update, as opposed to a process of seeing, then knowing, then acting. Some of us need to experience things in order to get to clarity. And this is definitely going to be true in our divine masculine energetic fields, that we're going to have to move through a process of try it before we buy it. To know for sure, okay, this is what's going to work. We're going to have to try on certain things, certain behaviors to know for sure what we can do and what won't work for us. And like I said, there's going to be some evolving clarity as the eclipses come in, because all the information that we need to know which way we can go, it's just not on the table yet. Some of us will be entering therapy for the first time. Some of us will be trying out a new job for the first time, or living in a new location for the first time, or trying out living with our counterpart for the first time, or trying out a new way of co-parenting for the first time. It may work. You may, in the process, discover what doesn't work for you and need to go back to the renegotiation table once Mercury turns direct in a few weeks, once Mars turns direct in several months, right? There's going to need to be negotiation, then renegotiation through this period of time. And the best thing we can do is all give each other a bit of grace with this, and know that we're all works in progress. None of us are perfect. And that if we want to see growth and to step into the new in union energy, we have to be willing to have the patience for the process as we work up to it. So that's what I have for us at this Pisces full moon, for people who recognize themselves to be part of some level of divine counterpartship. My invitation is always on the table to join Q&A with Kay, but you need to do it in the 24 hours following this broadcast. The Divine Mirrors content will be exceptionally helpful if you're finding yourself very triggered in this energy, especially if you, like I said in the Lightworker energy update, would label yourself a creature of clarity. That is certainly me. Guess I'm going to be re-listening to my own channeled content here. And if you are one of these people who finds yourself feeling quite persecuted by us creatures of clarity, my apologies. But if you find yourself being a creature of experience and experiment, needing to try things out, you may find the Q&A with Kay content on reframing union, reframing separation, and the divine mirror is really constructive for you at this time, as you create more grace for yourself as well. Okay. All my love, you guys. I'll see you at the next lunar update, and you can find links to everything discussed in this video below. Take great care, and bye for now.